Chainsaw Man season 1 was like a pleasant surprise to me. I, again, was late to the party on that one too when it came out, but there was so much out there about Chainsaw Man, whether it's cosplay or, you know, the Argentinian president using the whole idea of Chainsaw Man for his campaign. And, you know, it really popped off at the time when it came out. So when I finally sat down to watch it, I was just thinking to myself, why did it take me so long? Why didn't I make this a priority on my watch list? Because it was just such a thrill, and it's so fun from beginning to end. It's hilarious. Like, it's so funny and crude at times, but it strikes this really nice balance of beauty and depravity. You know, there's sometimes not a lot of time to like really take it all in, but in hindsight, I always look back on the show, and I every episode just made me appreciate the artistry behind the animation, the script writing, the storytelling, the music, just the whole package. And so the Reze Arc, which came out in theaters recently, really carries that forward and does such a good job of just scaling up the ante in terms of not only the plot and the action scenes, but also just the animation. And it's just a full upgrade in every aspect. And so I thought that Reze Arc did a really good job of just bringing you into the story and the plot of the movie without having to give you too much explanation about who the characters are or what's going on in this world and why do we have demons in this world and these groups like Division 2 and all that stuff. It doesn't give any explanation. So if you're a newcomer to Chainsaw Man and you're going to the theater, you're not going to know what's going on in terms of the mythology and the lore and all that stuff. But I thought, even though they don't explain all the details, I think the fact that the movie is very isolated in terms of the arc, it's so focused in on that anybody that comes in to watch this movie will quickly be able to digest it and just get in, because they don't present anything, at least from what I remember, that makes you question of like, wait, that doesn't make sense because I don't know who this person is. Like, it's really just focused on the plot and what's happening in this movie. And there really wasn't a need for like a recap like Dan to Dan Evil Eye did or nothing. Like, I felt maybe since I watched season 1, it didn't bother me as much, but I feel that somebody that hasn't read the manga or watched season 1 would easily be able to watch this movie and enjoy it to the fullest and not feel lost, because we're really just focused on what's going on in this plot and this story. And there's not really any like sidelining of characters talking about, you know, not sidelining, like we don't get anything really talking about other events in the series, which I thought was great. Where on the other hand, if we compare it to Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, that literally takes place like right in the middle of the last season in a big action scene, and it's literally like the next scene, like the next frame of that shot. But yeah, like everything from the animation, the music was so good. They had a varied amount of styles of music as well for different scenes. Like in quieter scenes, they had some classical music that paired really nicely to what was going on, while in those action scenes they had that more like a drum and bass type music. And yeah, it's very, very enjoyable. But what I really, really liked about the movie is that, you know, the drama and the story that we get here has so many notes and so many layers, because I think I mentioned this earlier. When you start the movie, it's very slow and steady, and it takes its time to build up to the action, right? It's pretty much like, I think the first half, at least it felt that way for me, basically is just the characters, you know, kind of living their life, you know. And there's a few action scenes here and there from like our supporting cast, like Aki and the Angel Demon or Angel Devil, excuse me. But, you know, really in this movie, it's part like, what's the term? Coming of age story. It really is like the first half is really like a coming of age story, where we have our main character Denji, who meets this girl that gives him a bunch of attention, and Denji loves attention. By the way, Denji, for those of you who don't know, is a 16-year-old. So you have to give him a lot of leeway because he does some things and says some things that, might catch you off guard, but this is a kid. It's funny because Denji is really obsessed with another character that gives him some attention, but it doesn't seem, at least for me, that it's genuine. But then he meets this new girl called Reze, right, which is part of the title name of the movie. And so Reze gives him attention immediately, and they have some really sweet moments. And what I enjoyed about this, one of the things I enjoyed about this film is that it does such a good job of taking its time with these characters, their interaction, the dialogue, and also you start learning about these characters, especially I feel like the main character, Denji, we start getting a little bit more about him that, we didn't really get in the series. Like, this is following that up, so it's starting to build on what season 1 gave us. And really what I got from this movie is that Denji really hasn't lived, like, hasn't really had a childhood. In this movie, in the quiet moments with Reze, that Denji interacts with Reze, she really brings out of him, I think, the realization that he's missed out a lot in his life, right? And he's never really given it much thought. Denji's the type of character, he's very aloof, a little crazy, very careless, or maybe carefree is a better term, but he is very good-hearted. And you notice that in the moments that really matter. When his friends or colleagues or whatever, coworkers are in trouble, he's always there for them. And the show does a really good job of kind of showing that, but not taking away from the action, the gore, the brutality. And honestly, it's masterful. It strikes such a great balance with that. And even in the moments that it's brutal and bloody and gory, the way that they present it, at times, maybe not all the time, but there are moments in the movie and in the show as well, but specifically talking about the movie, there is some moments that they don't hold back. They're like cutting demons up and stuff like that. And the gore is, the way they present it is sometimes honestly kind of like beautiful. Like, it's almost, and I'm not into, like, I'm not a masochist or nothing like that. But in terms of the animation, it's almost like there's moments where they show the gore, but the way they present it, it's almost like a canvas. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I might have to take this part out because it probably sounds like I'm a psycho or something, but it's not. It's just the animation is really, really well done. And even in the moments, I think that the way they present the gore most times, or like the violence, is done in a way that is somewhat palatable. I know that sounds very like ironic or contradicting maybe, but it's somewhat palatable. Like, it doesn't throw you off really. Like, I think it's just a testament of the mastery of these artists, these animators, they do such a good job. And to talk more about the animation, something that I really, really love is that it's very eclectic. It's, they change like in between scenes, like the style of like the illustrations, sometimes they're really polished, but then sometimes they're a little more archaic, I think is a good term. And then the colors, like, sometimes you just get a full like range of colors in between, and sometimes it seems like surreal or abstract, but it all adds to the scenes. And that's what I think Chainsaw Man, in terms of the animation and the anime, does so well, is that I feel like every single frame, every single scene, every element of the movie and the show is very well thought out. Like, everything from, like I said, the music, the colors in the illustration, the comedy, the humor. The humor is so on point here. Like, it never feels like any line or comedic moment is just a throwaway. It's all, the timing is impeccable, honestly. And it's, what I love about it is that the comedy feels very modern and somewhat Western in a way, at least for me. It feels like the sensibilities are not like most anime. Like, the sensibilities are somewhat Western. I'm sure there's Japanese humor there as well, but I feel like the anime sometimes can be a little jarring for some people. I know that for me, it still is sometimes, depending the anime. I'm willing to look past it if I like the show, but I know for some people that might not be into anime, they might see some that have these moments where like the characters get really goofy and the faces and everything. But the comedy in Chainsaw Man feels like grounded and real and like something that you would see in the real world, right? And I think shows like Dan do that as well. And there's other examples out there, I'm sure. Jujutsu Kaisen, I think, does a good job as well. But anyways, not to delve into that. The point is, the Reze arc was very touching at moments. It's just beautiful. I mean, I don't want to delve into specifics just to avoid any spoilers for anybody, but it's definitely a great watch for, and of course, any fan of the anime or the manga, but also I think for people that might be curious and never watched season 1 or read the manga, I think this is a really good movie to get into. And like I said, it doesn't give a lot of exposition about the world and what's going on currently, or it doesn't give a recap or nothing. But even then, I think they chose really well what to cover in the movie.
Hey, if you liked that video and you want to get the full episode in your inbox before anyone else on here, you can sign up to our free weekly newsletter, Pop Pulse Digest. You'll also stay caught up with the latest news in anime, gaming, and comic book, TV, and movies. The link is in the description.